Hi there, and welcome back to Growing Gardens at Home. Today we are going to make vegetable tempura, something new and different and a great way to use up an assortment of vegetables. So our ingredient list here shows 2 cups or more of high heat vegetable oil. Depending on the pan size, you might need more than 2 cups there, but you want about an inch thickness of oil. We're going to do 4 cups of assorted vegetables, raw and prepared. And then we're going to mix 1 cup of flour with 1 teaspoon of salt. I am using gluten-free flours today. You can use whatever you'd like in your home. And then we're also going to mix club soda with an egg. I have my oil heating here in the pan, and this has been going for now about 5 minutes or so. And if you do have a candy thermometer, that can be really helpful to use in measuring that temperature and kind of keeping at it. As you add vegetables, the temperature will decrease a little, and so if you want it to be an exact science, you would play with that a little bit. I'm only in the fairness of considering most of you all probably don't have a candy thermometer, so I am not using mine to do this with you in a way that is realistic with what equipment we have on hand. So right now I'm mixing soda water with 1 egg. I've already pre-mixed my flour and salt in this bowl here, and we're going to add the 2 together, and this is going to be our batter. And we will just drench the vegetables. They get to go for a swim in that batter and then in the oil, and it's so quick and easy, and to me such a satisfying thing to have that you don't often make at home. So this might be something you enjoy in a restaurant. Many of us are not going to restaurants right now, although we're lucky to do takeout from a lot of special places, but this one is kind of a nice fun way to mix it up, and maybe something you're not making regularly in your own home. I also like it's a way to just kind of use up some vegetables that are hanging out in the fridge, and you might have just odds and ends and not quite enough for one particular recipe, so you can do as little or as much as any kind of vegetable that you want. And so in here we're going to pour that mixed soda water and egg. You can use club soda if you have a soda stream. It's really easy to mix that in. And then, gosh, that light is really bright. Let's see if that helps at all. But we're going to use our chopsticks and just blend these 2 together. They are still going to be a little clumpy, but enough to just kind of incorporate. Clumpy's okay. The chopsticks just kind of get it together just enough. And the oil, you can kind of tell when it's ready when you start to see almost like little streams in it of, like, if you were to look at a stream and see the movement of water. Speaking of which, water and oil, hot oil, do not mix well. So when you are doing this, if you're washing your hands in between, be really careful to not splash water into this oil, or it'll be very hot and uncomfortable. All right, so we've mixed this up. This is really nice and like a nice thickness to it. Not too thick, but a nice thickness. And so I've prepared some vegetables here. So I have some onion and some pepper, and I've kind of made them like sort of a flat and elongated shape. You can choose the shape you want to do. Carrots, I like to take the biggest carrot I have in the refrigerator, and that I cut at like about 1/4 of an inch thickness. And then broccoli, I love the taste of fried broccoli with tempura. So these are round, and I don't have them, but round mushrooms are delicious too, and I leave them right in those shapes. I actually don't even slice them thinner. All right, so I do love the broccoli, so while we're talking about that, let's get some broccoli in, and then we'll start getting some pepper in. And I usually do just 1 vegetable at a time, and then I can kind of keep them timed as how they'll cook. So if it's something thicker like a broccoli, that's going to go a little bit longer, but gosh, none of these go very long. So we're talking about, I'd say anywhere from like 2 to 3 minutes that they're cooking in that oil, getting nice and toasty and really like steaming that vegetable within, just so it's cooked and still a little crunchy and very flavorful. All right, so as they're kind of getting coated and swimming in here, you can use tongs for that. I use tongs to get the vegetables back out of the oil because I don't want to reach in too close to that hot oil. And a slotted spoon works really well for putting it into the oil. So I often check my oil with a little batter, and it is close. Yep, you'll see the batter rise right up to the top when it gets in there, and that's a good sign. So we're going to put these in. I'm going to put it up just 1 degree. And this part is a little tricky to watch, but I'll try to maybe bring the phone over, experiment with how I can best record. And then once these are in here, you can kind of keep them moving around in the oil to kind of get them coated and cooking on all sides. And you'll see batter will loosen up and move around, and that's okay. They kind of do float up to the surface when they are close to done, and that's helpful too. Let's see. Sorry, I'm having trouble filming and doing the same thing at the same time. You want like a lightness to the batter. And so we're looking at probably 2 minutes or so, getting a nice kind of toasty. You can even see the vegetable starts to turn green, so, or a deeper shade of whatever you are cooking. So you see kind of that cooking happening as you're watching it. And as they are going, you just move them around a little bit to get it evenly browning. And in the meantime, I'm going to start just moving our peppers around a little bit and getting something new in here. I thought onions would be nice. It kind of is reminiscent of onion rings, but just little flat pieces of onion. And the carrots right now are so fresh and delicious. I don't know if it's just the time of year or the weather conditions, but I should ask the growers over at the farm, but they are just the sweetest and most delicious. So I've really been using carrots a lot in our home, and this is a fun way to have the kind of salty tempura batter go along with that sweetness of the carrot. And so we'll flip these one little more time here. And I do like to keep a lined baking sheet lined with paper towels, so it's ready to receive the items as you remove them from the oil. And then that can kind of soak away some of the excess oil, so you're only consuming a reasonable amount. And then we'll go on to the next batch of things. And you can keep these in the oven under like your lowest heat setting just to keep them warm as you're working and doing this if you're doing it in batches. You can certainly use a larger pan, in which case you're just going to need more oil to cover the kind of circumference of the pan and have enough thickness to actually be frying the items in. So if that's the case, you can do more at once, and it will likely get to the table hotter than doing it in smaller waves like this. But I'm sort of being conscious of oil at this moment. I don't have a ton of extra oil, so it does take a bit. And I will say I often strain my oil and reuse it at least 2 or 3 times when I'm frying. I will strain it and reuse it only for frying, but I'll keep it in an oil bottle and keep it in the refrigerator, just labeled like fry oil or whatever you want to call it. And then as you can see, this has just gotten golden enough, light golden, and I'm going to put that down here to let it sort of dry out. And it's just a nice little vegetable and coated with delicious crust of sorts. And so, again, I kind of stick to a vegetable at a time. The next one I'll do is the carrots, so you see how nicely those look. They smell delicious. Oh, sorry, not the carrots. I was deceived by the orange in the color, so the orange pepper. And again, I do like to kind of dredge it with the batter as I'm going in, and then just place it in. And you'll see it kind of sinks at first, and then it's going to float up once it's closer to ready. And so you might want to use your fan when you're doing this. It can get a little bit of a smell of oil, or crack your window. And if you are going to save the oil, let's see, you definitely want to let it cool down. You don't want to handle it when it's extremely hot like it is now. And so I let it cool in the pan. I'll often leave it just right in the pan. I'll cover the pan just to keep the kind of oiled smell within. And then once it's cool for handling, I strain it through like a fine mesh strainer. And then I'll put it usually often right back into an oil bottle if I have it. So I can use a funnel and strain it back in. If you already tossed your oil bottle, you could use a mason jar if you don't have a spare bottle. And again, just label it, put it in the back of your fridge. You might not use it for another 2 months, but it's fun to have when you want to do this again and you don't feel like you're wasting a lot of oil. And the other thing, if you are frying something sweet, like a sopapilla or a churro, you're not going to want to put it in oil that you've fried onions and peppers. So it is important to keep a kind of sweet and savory oil separated. And another option is if you were going to do both in one meal and it's a fresh batch of oil that you're using, you could use it as frying the sweet dough first and then frying your more savory things. And that would be more favorable. Even a little sweetness into something savory would be just fine, but then that onion flavor just doesn't mix very well when you're going for something yummy, cinnamon, honey, and onion. So yeah, there's a lot of fun things you can do frying just this way, where you don't have a special deep fryer or special tools, but chopsticks and tongs. And then if you want a sauce for it, sometimes I'll use a Thai sweet chili sauce. I'll do like a lemon aioli mayonnaise type sauce with ground pepper. Any of those work really nicely as well. So I'll shoot a shot at the end of all the vegetables kind of fried up together on a plate. I'll share the recipe with you all at growinggardens.org on our blog, and I hope you'll come join us again soon.